بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته وتبع هداه إلى يوم الدين. تركنا المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك وبعد. So alhamdulillah, we continue to read from the Faith al-Rahmani or al-Fath al-Rabbani wa Faith al-Rahmani, Shaykh Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani, the Sublime Revelation and Divine Outpourings, set of 62 discourses that the Shaykh sermoned and lectured over a period of 2 years in Baghdad between the years of 545 and 546 of the Hijrah, radiallahu anhu. So we've arrived at the 37th Majlis, 37th discourse. So we'll just begin, look at reading from there. So he says, radiallahu anhu, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: عودوا المرضى وشيعوا الجنائز فإنه يذكركم الآخرة. قصد الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم بذلك أن تذكروا الآخرة وأنتم تهربون من ذكرها وتحبون العاجلة. عن قريب يحال بينكم وبينها بلا أمركم، يؤخذ من أيديكم الذي أنتم فرحون به، تجيئكم البغضة، تجيئكم الترحى بدل الفرحة. يا غافل يا همج، انتبه، ما خلقت للدنيا وإنما خلقت للآخرة. يا غافل عما لا بد لك منه، قد جعلك همك للشهوات واللذات وجمع الدنيا فوق الدينار، وأشغلت جوارحك باللعب. إن ذكرك مذكر الآخرة، والموت تقول نغصت علي عيشي وتلوي برأسك هكذا وهكذا. قد جاءك نذير الموت وهو الشيب في شعرك وأنت تقصه أو تغيره بالسواد. إذا جاء أجلك إيش تعمل. So let's just look at the beginning part. Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, visit the sick and escort the funeral processions, for it will remind you of the hereafter. The Messenger ﷺ meant by this that you ought to remember the hereafter, but you flee from the recollection of it and you love the temporal life, al-ajila. From this you will soon be separated, not at your own command. You will be dispossessed of all that you now enjoy. You will come to feel disgust. You will come to feel grief, at-tarah, instead of joy, or al-farah. O heedless one, O ruffian, come to your senses. You were not created for this world. You were created only for the hereafter. O you who are neglectful of your essential needs, you have focused your interest on carnal appetites and pleasures, on piling one dinar upon another, and you have devoted your limbs and organs to fun and games. If someone reminds you of the hereafter and death, you turn your head this way and that, saying, you make my life a misery. The herald of death has already come to you, in the form of the grayness in your hair, although you may trim it and tint it with black, or dye it with black. When your appointed hour arrives, what will you do then? When the angel of death comes to you, accompanied by his assistants, with what will you stave him off? When your sustenance is discontinued and your span is terminated, what trick will you try to play? So, Shaykh in the beginning, rahimahullah, is trying to remind us that the Prophet ﷺ reminded us to think of our eventual outcome. And our eventual outcome is that we're going to leave this world, we're going to leave it alone, and we're going to leave it dispossessed of all that we acquired and accumulated in this life. Those things you acquired and accumulated will be left to your heirs, and they're not yours anymore. And after people walk away, after they finish burying you, you will be left again once alone to answer the questions of Munkar and Nakir, of the two angels who come to the grave and ask you, who is your Lord, who is your Prophet, and what is your deen? So that therefore the Prophet ﷺ encouraged people to periodically remind themselves of the things that would make them have a greater sense of urgency about what they do in this life, because what's going to happen in the next life is more important. So visiting the sick and escorting the funeral processions remind one of the hereafter, because it shows us that this is an eventuality that everyone is going to go through. Everyone is going to pass through. No one can escape it. It doesn't matter what your position was in life, how much wealth you acquired, or how many assistants you have, or how many people you had power and influence over. None of that is going to make any difference. One iota, when Malik al-Maut, when the angel of death comes knocking at your door and is seeking to take you at the appointed time. لا يستأخر ساعة ولا يستقدم. He doesn't come 1 second later than he's supposed to come, and he doesn't want to come 1 second earlier. So there's nothing really that we can do when we say things like, this thing will prolong your life, or doing this particular thing may shorten your life. That's actually not to be meant, and we shouldn't mean it in a literal sense. Nothing shortens your life, nothing prolongs your life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will determine how long your life is going to be. All that is left for us is to, as it were, fall in line as best as we can and follow the commands and avoid the prohibitions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we have seen the Shaykh mention several times, many times before. So I want to go to another section here. He says, ويحك الأخرى لا تجتمع معها لأنها لا ترضاها خادمة أخرجها من قلبك وقد رأيت الآخرة كيف تجيء وتستولى على قلبك إذا تم لك هذا ناداك القرب من الله عز وجل فحينئذ خل الأخرى واطلبه فهناك تكمن صحة القلب وصفاء السر. I can find it here. This idea of multitasking or being able to be multi-focused on a variety of things, actually, I don't think it's very true, especially when it comes to the idea of al-jama' bayn ad-dunya wal-akhirah. So to combine between dunya and akhirah, to combine between the love of this life and the love of the hereafter, it doesn't work, because in actuality there are polar opposites. The akhirah is everything that the dunya is not, and the dunya is everything that the akhirah is not. So dunya is short, it's temporal, it's fleeting, it's deceiving, things are not as they seem. If you only go by the exterior aspect of it, it's not like anything that is real. And then the akhirah is quite the opposite. So it is real, it is haqiqi, it is everlasting. There is no grief in it, there's no displeasure, there's no strife, there's no difficulties. So everything that the dunya is, the akhirah is not, and the vice versa. Everything the akhirah is not is also the dunya is that. So he gives the parable here of it being like your love of dunya, like being a maidservant or a handmaiden to you. You can't have this one and that one at the same time. So release it, let go of it, let it go out from your heart, and then the akhirah will come more into focus. And what he means by the akhirah means the certainty about it. So all of these things is about having certainty about them, of what he calls iqan, or strong conviction or certainty. And the more certainty and conviction that you have about it, then the closer it will appear to you. The ulama, they have a saying, that which is certain to happen in the future, it's like it's already here. That which is certain to happen in the future, it's like it's already here. ما هو محقق في الآجل فإنه كالعاجل أو كالموجود عاجلا, I think is what they say. So if we are certain that we're going to die, and we're certain we're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're certain we're going to be in the akhirah, all those are certainties, right? No one should have any doubt about that. And even the atheist knows they're going to die. They may deny about what's going to happen after death, but they don't deny the idea that people die, and that's an eventuality for everybody. So if that is a certainty, and we are reminded of the certainty in a myriad of ways, right? Because we tend to forget. So we see people die before us. They could be close to us. They can be far away from us in terms of our relationship with them. We see people get sick. We ourselves get sick. Sometimes we get so sick. Occasionally, we wonder if we're going to recover fully or not recover. Certainly in this pandemic that we're seeing now, this is often the times the case. Many of us may already have known someone who's been affected by the pandemic, maybe even lost their life. So all of these things then serve as reminders, as اعتبار. The Quran exhorts us, وَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Have اعتبار. Yani, look at things not for what they are from an exterior perspective, but see the reality of them, see the inner perspective about them. So if your ajal is muhaqqaq, right? You're just there's a time stamp, right, or expiry date, and that's going to come. You just don't know when it's going to be. Then it's like it's here right now. Just think about people in the dunya, in the business world, or in the the world of sports, for example. In the business world, people, if they know that a certain thing is going to expire, if they know their inventory only has so much of a shelf life, then they have all these contingencies in place to make sure that the stock, the inventory can be restocked, and you're not left with expired products on your shelf. And they make these plans, these contingencies, before they even put the new stock, the new inventory on the shelf. They know that there's going to be an expiry date. If it doesn't get sold, then it has to be removed, and then the new inventory comes in, because it's muhaqqaq, it's a certainty, it's going to expire. Professional athletes also know they only have X number of years. They most don't continue to play professional sports beyond a certain age, like mid-30s or something. Maybe the rare exception, they get into the 40s, like Tom Brady. But outside of that, it's a rarity that they're going to go beyond that. And so they also, not so much the athletes, but certainly the teams that manage them and the teams that pay their salaries have this in mind. And so, your quarterback for the football team may think he's going to play into his late 30s or early 40s, but the management staff and the coaching staff already have a succession plan in place. They already know that, at this particular point, this athlete is not going to be much good to us anymore. And so they have a type of succession plan into place. So we should also have a succession plan, and not just kind of leave it up to, Allah is very forgiving. Allah is Ghafoor, He's Rahim, and He's well acquainted with our affairs, and everything's going to be okay. That's good. That should be a part of your overall kind of, let's say, spiritual psyche. But you need to balance that part of your spiritual psyche with a sense of urgency, with a sense of, no, wait a minute, my ajal is going to come, my time is going to come. I don't know when, but it's certainly going to come at some time. And I want to be balanced in that way. So sometimes they say, like, balance like kafatay al-mizan, like the two sides of a traditional scale, or like janahay al-ta'ir, or like the two wings of a bird, right? If the bird has one wing this way, one that way, then he's going to change direction. But if it's balanced, then you maintain the course, you maintain straight. So fear and hope then are there to balance us, as are the higher forms of fear and hope. Fear and hope are more about fear of consequences and hope for certain consequences. At a higher level and on a further along the spiritual path, they become more about al-uns wal-hayba, for example. Al-uns billah wa haybatullah. So more about than the consequences of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they become about Allah Himself, about the attributes of God. So you have uns, right? You have an intimacy and a longing for the beauty of God's attributes, or for the beauty of His beautiful attributes. And you have a hayba, you have a reverence for the magnificence of Allah's jalali, right? Magnificent attributes. And then even beyond that, it becomes more about, more focused on just Allah Himself, or more on the essence of God, in jalal and jamal, right? In magnificence and in beauty. And so everybody, inshallah, will have a share of that at different levels of understanding and different levels of implementation. But this is what should be kind of our, like we said, our spiritual psyche, how we look upon the world and how we interact with it, and most importantly, how we interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us many clues. He gives us kind of many signs, so that we don't lose sight of that, because al-insan, the word insan, human being, there's some difference of opinion amongst the grammarians or the linguists about what is the origin of that word. So one origin of it could be al-uns, right? And al-uns is the creature that seeks intimacy and social cohesion and connection with other creatures, with other things. So the opposite of that would be al-wahsh, right? And al-wahsh is the one that is solitary, lives alone, is not interested in mixing with others, and so forth. So al-insan يحتاج إلى أناس, it needs other people, and it needs uns, it needs to feel connected, and that is a part of being an insan, being a human being. The other word they said that insan could come from is a nisyan, right? Min nasiya. So nasiya means to forget, to be in a state of forgetfulness, and that's also part of who we are. So we tend to forget very quickly. And here, when we talk about forget, we're not saying forget about memory. It's not something that I forgot, or I neglect to recollect in my memory, like, oh, what did you do yesterday? Well, I remember I did yesterday. But here it's a forgetfulness, more of the heart. تغفل القلوب, right? So غفلة القلوب, so the remissness or the forgetfulness of the heart. So it means a forgetfulness of the urgency or the importance or the significance of something, because you become distracted by something else. The Quran describes the type of people who kind of flay in the wind. And the Prophet ﷺ talked about this type of person. He called them al-imma'a. He said, لا تكونوا كالإمعة, don't be like this imma'a. The one who flays in the wind, the one who says, إن أحسن الناس أحسننا وإن أساءوا أسأنا. Don't be like the people who say, if people are good, then we'll be good, and if people are bad, then we'll do the same as them. But say, إن أحسن الناس أحسننا. He said, وطنوا على أنفسكم, وطنوا, يعني establish this in your person, in your heart, that if people do good, إن أحسن الناس أحسننا وإن أساءوا فلا تظلموا. And if they wrong you, فلا تظلموا, don't wrong them, right? If they injure you or in another way, don't go the other extreme and wrong them. So this is, he called this al-imma'a. And the Quran talks about the type of people who إذا مسه الشر فذو دعاء عريض, right? If something bad's happened to them, then they make a lot of dua and they want to get out of it. But if they have something of bliss and something of ease and something of ni'mah, then they forget and they don't ask and they don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala هو الذي أسدى إليهم هذه النعم. He is the one who put in their path these blessings and this life of bliss and these easy things. So we are forgetful in that sense. So Allah gives us many clues and gives us many signs. He gives you gray hair, and He gives you aging, and He gives you wrinkles, and He gives you loss of maybe some loss of mobility. He gives us sickness. Sickness, no one likes to get sick. No one wants to be ill. But sometimes if it does happen, then we have to take it as a reminder and take it as a maybe a bit of an alarm clock going off and saying, just like you didn't want to get sick and it happened to you and you couldn't avoid it, well, death is going to happen to you and you're not going to like it and you couldn't avoid it either. So keep that in mind. And so we want to live life to the fullest, in the sense we live like there is no tomorrow, in terms of what we want to prepare ourselves for the tomorrow. So the tomorrow that may or may not come, but definitely the tomorrow of us passing to the next stage, the next life, that tomorrow is certain. But the tomorrow of will I continue in the manner that I'm continuing now is not a certainty at all for anybody. And so we want to have ta'mir al-waqt. We want to, as we said, cultivate our most precious commodity that we have, all of us have, which is our time. Use it in the best way, use it wisely. Try not to waste it. Try not to let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala see us in a compromised state. And a compromised state means that we are mukhalif, that we are going against His wishes and going against His command, but to always try to see us in a state of ta'a, in a state of obedience and following that command. So he talks about this qurb, this nearness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that we are the type of beings that may tire easily, right? No one wants to be around anybody who keeps talking about death and this eventuality. And for many people, culturally, it's not very acceptable to kind of talk about it publicly and ponder it and all that sort of thing. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does offer us ways by which we can sustain this urgency in life and desire, or let's say lack of fear or lack of trepidation about eventually meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's okay to fear death. In fact, we should. We don't want to approach death except that we are certain that we are in a state of iman. And so the awliya, many of them didn't fear death because of the idea of death and meeting Allah, but they fear that they may come to it in a state where they are not in a state of iman. I was reading the other day that one of the awliya, he was asked, if you had the option and you're in your bedroom and you can die a shaheed, right, a very lofty way of dying, a martyr fi sabilillah, and you just have to make it out the front door, or if you had the option of dying just having iman, not a shaheed, but all you have to do is make it to the bedroom door, which one would you choose? He said, I would choose just dying on iman at the bedroom door, because I don't know what's going to happen to me between the bedroom door and between the door of the house. Maybe I'll fall back on my heels. Maybe I will not die in that state of iman or that state of shahada. Maybe something will happen to me. So they had a healthy fear, but a fear of not dying in a state of iman. And also, they also fear that any ease that they're having in life now, any bliss, could be a state of istidraj. And istidraj means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you some pause and kind of withholding, taking you to task for the things that you have done wrong, that you, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to deal with you by His adl, by His justice, then you would be quite deserving of these chastisements. And so they would have, a fear of that might be their case. So whatever the case might be, we should never feel like, oh, everything's just great and I'll be fine. And, no, we should, between these two things, right? And sometimes between these two things translate into something called al-Qabd wal-Bast. So al-Qabd means like a constriction of your, let's say, your spiritual psyche. You feel like a little down, or you feel a little less optimistic about yourself and the state of the world and things like this. This is called al-Qabd. And sometimes you have Bast, and you feel a little bit more optimistic. You feel a little bit more, maybe you're in a state, it could be a good state, you can be in a state of gratitude, and you feel that things are looking up and so forth. And for the seeker, for the salik, they are between these two states. They go back and forth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ يَقْبِضُ وَيَبْسُطُ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Allah يَقْبِض, He can put you in qabd, وَيَبْسُط, He can put you in bast, state of the heart, وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, but you go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At a higher level, we call it something else. We call it al-jama' wal-farq. So al-jama' and yajma' Allahu qalbaka alayh. يجمع الله قلبك عليه, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you in this sort of unison with the hadra, with the divine presence. So you feel close to Allah. This is called jama'. And then al-farq means you feel, no, not so close. You feel there's Allah and there's me and there's this big distance between us. That's called al-farq. And so we want to do the things that will bring our hearts. So jama' means to combine. So we want to combine our whole being towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is called al-qurb, right? Al-qurb. And as the Shaykh said in a previous discourse, al-qurb means that you're in a kind of worldly heaven. And al-bu'ad, right, when you feel distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're far away, this is type of a worldly punishment or hellfire. And that's actually the true bliss of even the Jannat al-Ma'wa, the heaven in the next life, is because Allah will give us things that will make us feel like we are close to Him. So all the things that He promises, all of those things that He has promised in the Quran that we can't even imagine for ourselves, the real felicity there is that they are signs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us close to Him. We are in His protectorate and His inayah, his special consideration. And some of that can be had in this life if we seek it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are people of intention and people of resolve, and ultimately people of tawfiq. Allah has to be able to give us tawfiq, the inner success that makes all of that happen. And then al-bu'ad is the opposite. So the distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is feeling that we're far away and we feel isolated. And when we're alone, we feel alone, not that He's with us. Whereas someone who's in a state of jama'ah will feel, I'm not lonely because I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with me. Man kana ma'Allah fallahu ma'ah. Whoever is with Allah, seeking Allah, then Allah is with them. And the Prophet ﷺ, la tahzan inna Allah ma'ana, do not grieve, Allah is with us. So this ma'iyah, so there's an intellectual ma'iyah, so an acknowledgement Allah is with us because we know that there's nowhere we can escape from Allah's knowledge. So that is a kind of a witness. Then there's more of a spiritual ma'iyah that one can avail themselves of, which is to see with the eye of the heart that Allah is with you, right? And to see that anything that befalls you, Allah didn't just leave you, but that's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to you, inshallah, as a tanbih, as a signal or as a way to encourage us, as a way to sustain us, and so forth. And so many people, they talk about the karamat and they say, people who can see inside of other people and see the ghaib and see things of the unseen world and so forth. But some of the awliya, their karamat is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them this sense of ma'iyah and qurb. And that's one of the greatest karamat. The greatest karama is al-istiqama. The greatest type of saintly miracle is to be mustaqim, right? Is to be on the straight path. And when Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he saw the Prophet ﷺ, and they used to be able to count the number of white or gray hairs in his beard. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, shibta. Ya Rasulullah, you got a little bit of gray, and we're not used to see that gray. And then the Prophet ﷺ responded, Shayabatni Hud wa akhawatuha. Shayabatni Hud wa akhawatuha. That which has made me gray is the chapter, the surah of the Quran, Hud, and akhawatuha, and the sisters of Hud. In other words, surahs, and there's difference of opinion about what that means, but chapters that are similar either in the way that they start, like Hud, like the singular letters, or that they have similar meanings to Hud. And some of them said the reason the Prophet ﷺ said Hud, because there's a verse in it that says, "Qul amantu billah thumma wastaqim kama umirt." Wastaqim kama umirt. The verse in the Quran instructing the Prophet ﷺ, "Istaqim kama umirt." Find this uprightness, find the straight path, be on that, kama umirt, as you have been instructed to, or as you've been commanded to. And so this is the Quran in general is qawlan thaqila. It's a heavy word, but this one especially seems like it weighed on the Prophet ﷺ, that it was something that was heavy. And istaqim kama umirt, be be on the straight path as you have. And the Prophet ﷺ, he told the Sahaba, if you knew what I knew, لَضَحَكْتُمْ قَلِيلًا وَلَبَكَيْتُمْ كَثِيرًا. If you knew what I knew, what I have seen, for example, from al-Ghaib, from that which is of the unseen realm, then you would have laughed little and you would have wept much. So these are things to consider. And this is our Prophet ﷺ who's saying these things, who also had a certainty that his Lord was going to take care of him and his Lord was going to grant him very felicitous things in the next life. But his spiritual psyche, as it were, and it's the most complete one that one can imagine, and no one is going to be more complete than this. He also was between the mushahadat of Jalal and Jamal in a way that we can't even imagine, but something that's commensurate with someone in a state of nubuwwah, in a state of prophethood, and of the highest state of prophethood and the highest state of insaniya, of humanity, even that some of them called him al-insan al-kamil, like Shaykh Abd al-Jili, al-insan al-kamil, the perfect human being. And that's what he was. And so the perfect human being, the most full, comprehensive human being, is one who is balanced between optimism and hope in Allah's mercy and in his ease and his gentleness, and witnessing that in your life, and also caution and reverence and respect for the magnificence of God, for the magnificence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Adabani Rabbi fa ahsana ta'dibi." My Lord inculcated me adab, and he was the best one to do that. And we can see that in the career of the Prophet ﷺ. When Jibreel alayhi salam, Gabriel, first appeared to the Prophet ﷺ, he did not appear in his true form. That may have been not appropriate for someone first getting this message of nubuwwah, of prophecy. But later on, sometime after that, he said, I saw Jibreel in his true form, and I saw him in the horizon, and he filled up the whole horizon with his wings, and I filled up the whole sky when I saw him, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. So Allah prepares us, right? We go through certain trials and tribulations, and as we said, this is a type of tahiyah. We're being prepared to take on even something maybe more challenging, and something bigger later on. So don't get lost or lose hope in the little trial that you may be going through now. This could be, inshallah, a way for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preparing you for something much greater. And what's the criteria? How do we tell we're on the right path or not on the right path? It's a question that is often asked. We look at our position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is Allah's position with us? What is his maqam with us? Is the first thing that we do when we wake up in the morning, we say, Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana, or Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da amatana wa ilayhi nushur. Do we say, praise to the one who gave us life once again this morning? We woke up and we are surely on our way back to him, returning to him. And is it the last thing that we think about before we go to sleep? And then do we structure our day so that we have periodic remembrances of Allah, namely the 5 prayers, and we look forward to them and it doesn't feel like a burden upon us, and we are happy to do it, and we are even enthusiastic? These are all ma'ani, these are meanings that give you a good indication that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala radi ank, Allah is pleased with you. So if you find that you're pleased with Allah, then that's a sign that Allah is pleased with you. But if you question Allah, right, and I don't mean question in the sense in an overt manner, rarely will a Muslim do that, a believer do that, but maybe question why certain things in your life are happening the way that they are, right? This is the way that we question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but albeit in an indirect way. So don't accuse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you request Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you make the dua, when you supplicate, don't ask in an accusatory manner or accusatory tone, right? Ibn Ata al-Sakandari said sometimes the dua, طَلَبُكَ مِنْهُ اتِّهَامٌ لَهُ. Asking him sometimes, depending on what's the state of your heart, could be an accusation. Like, Allah, did you forget about me? How come Allah's not hearing my dua? I keep asking, but he's not listening, and so forth. No, the basis of dua, هو مخ العبادة, right? It is the cornerstone or the fountainhead of ibadah, of worship, and it's to help establish in your heart that relationship that should be between you and God. Namely, he is the one to be asked, and you are the one who is asking. not the other way around. So we're not stipulating, we're not telling Allah what to do, we're asking Him, right? And then we leave the answer up to Him. We leave however which way He wants to answer it in a manner that He deems best and commensurate with our particular state and where we're at in life. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.